Hello, everyone. So we're here with another 10Q, 9Q game. We'll see what ends up happening. I have a new thing that I'm going to be trying out for this video. If nothing is different in this video, then that means it wasn't working. Let me know if you like it, and let's just get into a game. Okay, we found a game already, and we are white in this game, playing an 11Q this time. So we'll see how it goes. I will just play 4 points, unless they do something weird. Okay, just 4 points to make it very simple for myself. Approaching kind of far away. Let's try the new thing that I said I had set up. So normally with this move, we can just block like this. Black would pull back, and then we're able to come back over to our own side and get a nice enclosure for our corner. But our opponent could try to do something a little bit more tricky, in which they try to do some sort of double approach or something. So a really simple way to handle this position is just to back off directly. Treat it the same as a normal enclosure. You don't need to always get a better result 100% of the time. So let's try that. This will make it a little bit easier to figure things out. And we're just going to keep it, again, very simple and just take R3, make sure we have a base, and then they can back off as well. Though they don't seem to want to back off, I think we will just block in the corner to make sure that we are solid. They don't have a base yet, so I want to make sure to apply a little bit of pressure. And we connect here. You don't always want to extend. When you connect, you get rid of a weakness. When you extend, you get a couple more points, but it's too early in the opening to worry about points. And now they are playing too far away. If we end up doing the same thing we did on the other side, where we just back off and then they can slide, they could easily play a very comfortable move to settle their own position. And we don't really want that to happen. You can see the real bright green on my screen over here. All good. It's fine. But we don't really want that to happen. So now they've played too much. They were supposed to play a simple extension back, a simple 2-space extension back here to make their group strong. They did not decide to play that. So now we should actually take the move that they were supposed to play, some sort of 2-space extension here. We could also be a little bit closer if we want to. So let's do that. We don't want to always back away from everything. We do want to apply a little bit of punishment to our opponent, especially if they didn't play the move they were supposed to play. So I definitely do not mind this. The reason why they're supposed to play that move is to get a base for their group. They made me extra strong, and they didn't get their base. In this case, because they did this slide here, I do want to make sure they don't double approach me. So I am going to just back off. And I'm going to do a very large back off because I'm not expecting to get the block in the corner. And this will be better for if they take the corner themselves. Basically, I'm running away from my opponent to make a base for myself. And I'm even okay with blocking one time here to make sure I basically have a nice group on the left side. It's like they kicked me in some regard, but they're also on the second and third line instead of a higher line like that. And so now they are applying pressure to me. If we just jump, they can connect underneath. We probably don't care if they connect underneath, but to keep it very simple, I'm going to just try to cover this side of the group. And doing this diagonal move prevents any sort of connection underneath. This is a very strange move. We definitely just connect now. This is making our group very, very strong. And we could even try to be very aggressive if we wanted to. But we don't have to go overboard, and we're just going to jump here because this group is still not alive. So yes, let's just jump back here. We're going to prioritize our weak group first. Attaching to us a little bit. This is one good way to try to get out from behind very quickly. But in this case, I'm not exactly sure I like it as much. We will have to read a ladder. So let's check that real quick before we move on. If I play this Hane, they connect, we connect, then they push and cut. Do we have this ladder? This is what I mean here. And we can sort of do diagonals across the board, and we see that we don't really have this ladder. And so if we don't have the ladder, the next thing we need to see is, are we okay with this anyway? So no ladder, but we jump over here, bump. It seems a little bit difficult for black to escape as well. But since there's no ladder, it sort of makes the game a bit too complicated. So since that's not there, I'm still going to Hane, but I'm probably, if they connect, I'm going to play a little bit differently probably. In this case, we could continue to push, but if they cut, we're going to have some problems, so we will connect. Now we don't have to worry about that ladder, and we're very comfortably out towards the center. We could try to still apply a lot of pressure, but something you might notice at this point is that one of our other groups is now being a little bit surrounded. And so with our other group here, and this group here on the side, we don't want them to get one more move in the area. We're going to make sure that that group is not surrounded before we move on over here. We are ahead of our opponent on the left side because we sort of wrapped around them, so it's fine to play away here. I think you fourth line, third line, either one's fine. Often you do fourth line if you want to apply a little bit more pressure. So let's try the fourth line move. We're still threatening to surround them, and that's the more important part here. Yep, they're going to lean on us. We're just going to answer. That's going to be okay. Because we're also getting territory like this, so we're pretty happy. I don't need to do a double Hane. I don't need to try to do anything special. I do have another group that is potentially weak, so I'm just going to extend. You do a double Hane when you're trying to push them towards your strong area, and not when you're pushing them over your weaker area. That's always a bad idea. It's like they're trying to make just eyes here, and that's probably fine. The group is probably alive now if I don't play again over here. I don't think we need to worry about trying to kill. I think all we really need to worry about is making sure our other group is very strong. So I'm just going to jump out again towards the center, make sure that they can't surround us, and we're still threatening to surround them. Even if they're alive, if we can surround, it's almost always good anyway. Yep, we can just block here. Okay, so they decided just to live. And technically, if we want to, this is where we can go to surround to make our groups very, very strong. In this case, we don't have to do that. I think we are strong enough towards the center. So then the other option is, of course, just to play big moves in general. The top side is probably the widest side of the board. And then the left side is where we have most of our weakness and some of our influence as well. So I'm going to start with the left side of the board. I'm always looking for where I'm potentially strong or weak, and always trying to emphasize those sides. In this case, they're playing next to my strong group, not my weak group. So we take away their base first. Playing low here is not a good idea. We don't need to block. It's okay if we don't make that one eye on the bottom here. And our goal is now to jump out towards the center. So we'll just do a one space jump here. We want to jump towards our other group right now. I think pulling back is like a really comfortable shape. So we'll pull back. So now we will just block. We don't want to let them keep pushing underneath like this. And they just really want to live here. Just live, and that's it. So we have two options now. And I think it's really, really good and really important to actually consider both of these options. If we pull back right now, and they do this, and we connect, and then they are basically just alive, but they can still jump out here first. They got to separate us and get some nice position here in the center while also basically being alive. But if we capture the stone instead, they don't have, there's no capture here, but they don't have two eyes. They have maybe one eye. And they did split us, but my group is strong on one side, and then my group is going to be strong on the other side. So I think capturing the stone is really nice in this case. It's always something you have to think about. Should you capture or not? In this case, I am going to capture. Even though it lets them out towards the center, we can't surround them anyway. So it's better just to make ourselves strong like this and get rid of their base instead. They gave us really nice shape on the other side, so we're very happy with that. I want to play the tiger's mouth. It doesn't really help too much for me. it just is like a comfortable shape. Whenever you can play a tiger's mouth, it always feels good to play it. In this case, however, we're just going to be haunting over the top. Our groups are technically weak, so that's the thing we want to focus on right now, is we want to make sure our groups are as strong as they can be. In this case, instead of connecting solidly, I want to do a tiger's mouth, so that way when they turn, I'll be connecting more comfortably or more conveniently to my other side. Because the peep here doesn't really matter, even if they do decide to play it. That is being very, very, very aggressive here. My opponent is allowing me to push through and cut their shape apart, which you should almost never do. So I'm just going to take what they offered me. Yep, push and cut. And they're going to sort of fight it out. The problem is they're right next to two of my fairly strong groups. And I've now surrounded their left side, which means they have to live now with this left side right away. And this is why this is usually not a good idea. I'm just going to keep extending here. The more I extend, the more liberties I get. But they also, as I said, they still have to come back and live on the left side, because they are not alive yet. So just like in my other videos, before we go to try to kill something, or before we go to try to do anything too aggressive, we need to make sure our other groups are connected and strong. And so they are trying to attack us in some way. To prevent them from really attacking us, we're just going to connect up our group. If we connect this way, that looks like this works. We have to make sure to read the connection, the moves that they could try to play against us. They don't have that many liberties on the stones over here, so this should be fine. Could also play one space jump, and that looks like it also works. So whichever one you can figure out better. I'm going to do this one. I just liked it more. Yep. We're going to keep our group connected. That's the most important aspect. Again. Yep. And now they're going back to live. I don't know if they can live necessarily, but they are going back to try. So this is where we do have to just read. And I don't want to put stones on the board for the reading aspect. I just want to show the options for when I put stones on the board. In this case, one thing we could do is like this Hane here, or we could play over here, right? And I think we don't want them to escape towards the center. The first thing you do is always surround. So I want to play this move. Make sure they cannot escape towards that side while also poking at the eye shape. And now this becomes really, really simple. They have potentially two eyes here. So we just have to get rid of it. We just play from the outside. This move is threatening to get rid of this eye here. If they take this eye, then we can Hane and kill on the other side. Just Hane here. And then we can go back to this side of the board, this side of the group, and just Hane and Hane again. Because 4 in a row is not an eye. It's only an eye if black plays another move. Yep, so now we can get rid of that eye. We don't need to block necessarily, but we could also just Hane into the corner, or we could extend back like this. Anything's really fine here. I don't know which one I like more. I think we'll just block here. Keep it very simple. There's no real Aji we have to worry about, so I think that simplifies it enough for me. And now you're going to see why I was okay with leaving this stone, because we've already connected everything out here. So when I block, and depending on what move they play, they're going to cut this way. Either one's going to still be fine. I'm just wondering the cleanest way to do it. If we connect, they extend, we'll have to turn it into a fight. So actually, let's Atari over the top side. Then if they extend, we can connect here, and they don't have enough liberties. It's in a ladder, or a net in this case. Yep, when we connect here, it is just a nice net here. And then we're perfectly fine now. And if they captured, we'd be able to capture and turn it into a ko, which gives us a little bit more safety for the outside. This move is not too important. We could connect if we wanted to. I think I will connect because it allows me to follow up in the corner. So I will just connect and then see what they want to play. So now we do have some nice Aji here in the corner with like a clamp, for example. And that could be something really nice to play right now. But before we go and invade or do any sort of big attack like that, I want to take a look at their weak group here that's in the center. If we jump out towards this direction, we are slowly surrounding it. So I want to try to start surrounding my opponent's group before I move on. Okay, they are fixing their corner Aji, but like I said, they had a weak group in the center, and that is what I'm focusing on right now. So I don't know if there's like the most comfortable way to do it, but I think we can just surround in a very large way. And one of the most important things to look for when you're surrounding is if you're like connected to your stones in a normal shape. So a 1-point jump or a knight's move. In this case, this would be a knight's move into a large knight's move. That doesn't mean that we're going to kill. That just means we're surrounding the group. If we play anything else, maybe they can escape with a special move. So we're looking for a basic type of connection that you would have towards your normal stones here. And here I'm going to prevent them from running away, because if they push through there, I'm going to have more cutting points, so we don't want to allow that. Yep, we just want to block, of course. And we're going to still focus on getting rid of cutting points. So I think I will either turn here or back off over here. If I turn here, they can Hane. So I think I'm just going to connect our group up here. There's getting rid of a tiger's mouth on my opponent's position. Atari here, we're just going to connect. We want to make sure they don't connect up their groups. That wouldn't be very good. Now they need to make sure they're alive here again. Before we try to do any sort of killing move, we usually want to make sure our group is nice and solid on the outside first. So if they push here, there are cutting points. So let's turn here to get rid of the cutting points. And now we can pretty easily see how large this shape is on the inside. And actually, if you look at it, it's kind of a bulky 5 shape. And so we can just Atari here. If we really want to try to kill, we can throw in now. And if they capture and cut, there's a Ko here, or we can capture the stone. I think we can actually do that, but I'm just going to connect for now and let them live, because we don't want to have any sort of complication or weakness in our shape. Since everything's really nice and solidly connected here, we can be very, very happy. This Atari is just threatening to life and death, so they have to play another move on the inside. And technically, this move is also Sente. It makes it into a Ko, but we don't have to play that right now. So our opponent has a couple weak positions, and so we also have some options for what we can do. So let's look at the options one more time. That's probably the last time I use it in this game, because it's getting pretty late in the game. The two things I'm sort of looking at is I'm looking at taking the 3-3 in some way, because their group could be under threat, or instead of taking the 3-3, maybe we approach instead. Anything to play along the top side. And then, of course, the Aji that was in the corner before, that is still possible. And then there's one more sort of piece of Aji here on the board, which I believe is this bottom side here. I think this is a small thing, though, because if they answer properly, then they're able to just connect up underneath. And this would just be like a reading thing, and so I don't want to just win because I outread my opponent here or they misread something. So I'm not going to worry about that one for now. I think I like the idea of playing the approach on the upper right or the clamp. Those are the three things I'm sort of looking at here. Because I'm so strong, you often actually do want to play something like the clamp, but for now, we're going to go ahead and play the approach and see what they do. I'm approaching on this side because this is the side that is the widest side. And they played a large knight's move, which means we can now take the corner. This is like a Joseki you don't see very often anymore because it's not very good to play. Okay, backing off here. I was worried they were going to block for a second, but we don't need to worry about that anymore. So I can just Hane and connect, and my corner is now alive. But the reason why you usually do not block this way is because now I can clamp here. Yep. And then when I connect underneath, there's an Atari in this position, which allows this cut to work. So we can Atari here, and we can run these stones out. We're running diagonally like this. So yeah, you can see that this is a slightly bad situation for black here. If we really want to try to read it out or do a lot of thinking, I guess, in the game, We can maybe actually just cut here right now. So it looks like that actually just works for us. They have this really bad shape. They don't have that many liberties, right? So let's just cut here. I'm not going to show you too much of the reading here. We can look at it after the game. Yep, just connect. Yep. They throw in. We're just going to capture, of course. Yep, connect, connect, connect. Atari up, which is interesting. Sort of getting rid of their own liberties there. Okay, so now we just need to think about our liberties. They are threatening to capture our stones. So if we don't want these stones to be captured, we need to play again. If you want to play really safely, we can just give this up right now and save our corner because we're also capturing these 4 stones. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Yep, they decided to capture this one. And the reason why I thought this was probably okay to do was because they aren't getting all the points on the top from this. They just have this one eye here. And so we can easily just jump one time towards the top side. And they still need to make 2 eyes with this group. And they still need to make 2 eyes with this group. Let's try again. Okay. They're not quite alive right now. So they'll need to make some bad exchanges in order to live. I'll just extend. This should be fine. And I'm not sure exactly what I like here, but I think we can bump here and cut because there is this honey at the head of 2 stones. Yep, just connect now. So it seems like they gave it all up right here. I don't really want them to connect to their other group, so I don't mind separating right now. It's usually a really good idea. Connect on the first line, though, I don't know if I care if they connect on the first line. I think what's most important is double checking if we have any problems, I guess, right? Our corner's not 100% alive yet. The thing that we may want to do, if we don't want to have to read too much, is we can play a move like this one to make sure that we'll always have enough liberties here. Because if black was able to play there, maybe they could get something. So even if I know that I can probably live, or I can probably figure something out, I want to try to play as safe as I can here. Attaching here, we're just going to back off here. Because if the group here is captured, then we don't really need to worry about anything. And here they're playing too much. They need to keep track of their liberties. We can now Hane here and capture these 2 stones. They did this earlier as well, this sort of bump here, but it doesn't quite work the way they think it does. Yep, we can connect. So now all of our groups should be really strong, sort of connected out everywhere. Now we can sort of look at this thing that I talked about a little bit earlier, which was the attachment here. The game's already over, so we may as well just look at it and have a little bit of fun with it. So let's see what they decide to play. Ooh, connecting solidly. I think that's probably going to be fine for them, but let's see what they do. Cutting. All right, let's Atari. We have to push again. We're taking away their liberties. That's really, really important. So we'll push again here. We could maybe connect or something, but we're pushing for sure. Yep, they're trying to get something to work over here. If we Atari here, they connect, we connect. That should be fairly easy to see. So let's play the easiest to see move. I do think my opponent actually had some pretty good ideas for some Tessage stuff, so I do think they actually study that. Trying to sort of trick me here. Right? This is what I mean by they have some good ideas for Tessage stuff, right? I have to capture right now. That's really important. Because now if I connected, it was no good. But now they are not alive in the corner. This is a very, very basic corner shape, so we can just Hane. Turns into the bulky 5, and now it's a dead shape. If they capture, we just back off like this. And everything looks really nice now. So the only thing we really have to worry about is just some basic in-game stuff. So we'll get this move in Sente now, which was threatening that Ko. Just big in-game from now. And I'm not sure there's too much more to really think about in this game. Okay, my opponent has resigned now. So let's take a quick look here at the game. I gotta say thank you first. All right, so the biggest sort of mistake that I want to point out, because if I'm going to be doing the variations in the middle of the game idea, I'm probably not going to do as much of a review at the end, but I still like to try to highlight what I think was really important. And something that my opponent was doing that wasn't very good, that we really want to try to talk about right now, is that they're trying to get too much everywhere. They're being a bit greedy, you could say. They're not extending the way they need to extend. They're not doing the stuff they're supposed to do here. So even though they played this sort of far away move, which we could have tried to do something else against, my guess is they probably would have tried to do the more complicated variation if we did play the other move. So I'm glad we didn't. They need to completely focus on fixing one group at a time, and then they can go and play their next move that they think is sort of fun to play, right? So we get a very strong position. We just turned into a little bit of a fight here, but we're still focused entirely on not being surrounded and keeping our group as strong as possible. Right here, so we're just not being surrounded. We're still not being surrounded. We're all strong. But what my opponent did instead was they sort of made some extra weak groups, like invading here again, for example. Is kind of the same idea as what they did earlier, but now it almost feels like they're a little bit jealous of what we have. Because we actually don't really have anything yet. We just have strong groups. But if we do get some more stones in this area, maybe we do develop some sort of a moyo potential. So they're trying to really apply pressure to our group instead, which doesn't really work in this case. And if you are going to play this sort of thing, you should be jumping out towards the center instead of crawling on the second line like that. As you saw, it doesn't really give you any actual eye shape. You got one eye, but not much eye shape. And we were able to push through their shape here. And because of that, the game was sort of over at this point. Because they ended up not playing to protect their cutting points, which was bad here. But the most important thing to really, really recognize from this game is that this sort of move is not a good idea. You don't just throw a random stone into your opponent's area like this, unless you are for sure attacking in some way. I have more strength on this side of the board in general, just judging by the fact that I have more stones in the center area and on the left side. And that's all you really have to do. You just count the stones, you figure out how much is there, you're able to make a good enough assumption of who's probably stronger. It's fine if you want to reduce this sort of area, though. If we just back off, let's just play a simple Joseki here. You could try to reduce like this if you really wanted to. This is a sort of common idea. And you can see that I do have a weak group here, so I probably would even continue to play here to make sure I'm connecting to my weak group. And then the other idea would be if we don't necessarily need to even worry about this area at all, and we just jump from the bottom side to separate the areas. Separation is often much better than invading. The strength you get from separating something is often very useful. In this case, I think there's big enough places on the board that we probably don't do this. I think this area is too wide for me to surround in one move. So it's usually better just to take another corner enclosure, for example. And if black just does something like this, I'm going to be ahead by a little bit because they made a mistake earlier, but I'm not going to be ahead by 100 points. I'm going to be ahead by like 10 points, which is a very, very different sort of feeling. They can even play this way if they want to emphasize taking away my points, for example. Just keep that in mind. You don't have to invade your opponent's area. You don't have to be very aggressive like that or try to attack in a very severe way where your opponent is really strong, because that just makes you turn into a weak group. It is okay just to take your own territory, make sure your groups are strong, and play very, very simple. Anyway, I was a little bit distracted, switching back and forth every so often, putting other stones on the board. I'll have to get used to it if I want to do it again, but if you liked the idea, definitely let me know. Leave a comment down below. Say whatever you want. And I hope you guys have a good day and have fun.